Yo, what's up? It's Jimmy on from Glitchy Thumbs, and today we have character 1.4. I think it's character 1.4. We're building it in Buildbox. If you want to see how I created the character in Procreate and how I created the 3D model that we're going to be using in Buildbox, check out the video and the link in the comments. In today's video, we're going to be building the mechanic for character 1.4, the Nosestache Guy. So let's get to it. I open up Buildbox, create new game, click 3D game, drag in our FBX that we exported from Blender, and then click import. Move the position of the cube by putting -1, which brings it down. Now we have the Nosestache Guy, but he looks a bit dark, and I'm not sure why. I go to the outline to change the outline from white to black. Normally it should be fine, but there's definitely something wrong with this FBX file. So I go to Blender. Oh yeah, I think I briefly talked about this in the previous video. I just got reminded of it just now, recording this video, that when we mirrored character 1.4 to make him face left to right instead of right to left, that's what we originally had the character. That's the reason why the FBX is a weird shading and doesn't work how it normally works for our characters when we import it into Buildbox. That's actually going to be the video today. I guess this would be part 2 for character 1.4 in Blender because I want to keep that separate. We'll probably have another video for the Buildbox portion. That's going to be the video today. So I apologize. I just go with the flow. Whatever I recorded is whatever I'm going to do a voiceover for today. And it looks like that's going to be the video. I definitely should keep some sort of a spreadsheet with certain topics for each video, but I haven't done that just yet to get everything a little bit more organized, but I'm just winging it most of the time, but that's just how it goes. All right, back to the video. So this FBX doesn't work in Buildbox. So trying to revert back the changes we made, making them from left to right, I go to Object, Mirror, click the X global, and I should actually do it for both the body and the outline. So I'd shift click the outline, go to Object, Mirror, X global, and now we've reverted back to the original way where he's facing right to left, but I'm not sure why I deleted it. Most likely because I already have a backup of him facing the left side because that's how we modeled it. So I selected those separate pieces, and I think the thought process behind this, I'm using the backup just in case the previous 3D model ends up not working, we'll at least know it'll work with the backup. So that's the thought process. So I duplicate the separate parts and move it into character 1.4 facing right, and the alternative method that I did instead was I rotated it 180 degrees, and you can start the rotation and then type in 180 and that will have a more snappier rotation for you. I did it this way because the set origin in the x-axis didn't work, so this way definitely works. I've tested it, and this was the only way I found that works for making them from left to right, because that's how our gameplay normally is, have our character face from left to right. But now all the objects are misplaced, so we have to move them back how we originally had it. So the Nosestache is in front, the eyes we got to move in front as well. But then you notice all the textures are incorrect. So that's why they're displaying this, because everything's backwards. But that's an easy fix because we just need to switch the UV position in UV editing, because that's how we cut our UVs in our textures. And that's a really important thing about your UVs, to understand that process, is so that you can make changes if something like this comes up at any time and you'll know what to do. So for example, the UVs, I know for the eyes that I cut them in half. So one of the UVs is for the front of the eye and the other is for the back of the eye. So that's why I moved the right UV up, and then I'm moving the left UV to the right, because that one's going to be for the back of the eye, and this one is going to be for the front of the eye. And you can see it happening live on the right side. And that's how you kind of understand how UVs work for 3D models. The texture in that location is being wrapped on top of your 3D mesh depending on how you've cut it. So that's a pretty good example, and I'm glad I'm able to get this on video to better explain this, because it was a little bit confusing for me in the beginning, but now I've done it so many times, I definitely understand the process, and hopefully this kind of helps a lot of you guys if you're creating 3D models for your game mechanics. So we need to do the same for the head, and I move the left UV out of the way so that I can shift the one on the right over to the left, and you can see our mouth is showing because that one had the texture and it's being nicely placed over the 3D mesh because our UVs are pretty much the same size. And then we just have to bring the right UV over to the back part. And now it looks more correct. And if you see some areas that haven't filled in because the UVs sometimes isn't the same size for separate UVs, because that's based on how you cut it. Character 1.4 was a little bit lopsided. Most likely it wasn't cut correctly, or it's just how the texture was in our texture file. So you can see there's a little bit of black on the bottom, and you can select the faces that you need to repaint. You can do that in edit mode, and you just do a little bit of touching up, and then go to texture paint, and then you can actually draw in the color or just use the paint fill again, and just make sure you select the correct color in your color palette on the right, and that cleans up any mess ups in your 3D model and your texture. Be sure to save that texture file as well. Now that we have the character facing the correct way from left to right, I unhid the rig layers so I can move them over to the middle, because that middle line indicates that the character is going to be in the middle, or at least that's how everything is supposed to be centered. It doesn't have to be, but it just makes it better when you're importing it into Buildbox. And for the rig, this one is fine for going to object mirror on the X global and then moving it. Actually, is not fine. Possibly, yeah, it looks like I deleted it, which I normally do just to make sure everything works correctly. And I used the old meta rig, the one with the bones, because we can always generate a new rig. And for our separate objects, since this was from a backup file, we need to apply the mirrors again. And then I selected the body, the eye, and the Nosestache and join them together, so we have one mesh to work with. For the meta rig, click generate rig, check in front, and if you need names, you can also check that too, and then just align that into place. Click your mesh, shift click the rig, press Ctrl P to parent them together with automatic weights, and you can see the mesh deforms a little bit to fit the rig, and that's fine for, you know, prototype characters. Not really a big issue for this character. And I guess I redo the keyframe animation, selecting that second layer, and at frame 0 I insert a keyframe to get the location and rotation at the moment, and at the 10th frame I move it in the x-axis by 0.05. 20th frame I move it back to 0, so that's basically negative 0.05. At the 30th frame, I move it negative 0.05, so that moves it back. And then I duplicate that to get some sort of loop going, and then just duplicate the 60th frame to complete the loop at 80 and press play, and you get that nice idle animation that I usually like coming up with for my prototype characters. And that's usually my default thought process for the first animation. It's always going to be idle animation because it's simple. You don't have to really think much for it. You know he's going to be moving some sort of to the left, to the right, or up and down. That's just how it normally is in games for me. Of course, it's going to be more complex in AAA games or something like that, but for like simple games, I've just seen like simple animation, and it pretty much works the way I'm doing it at the moment, just to get an idea of what the movement would be like if it wasn't a game. So it doesn't have to be complex. It's entirely up to you. However your thought process is, you can spend a lot of time trying to create the best animation for your game, or you can make a simple one and then spend more time doing the other aspects of your game. There's just many aspects to game development, so try not to be a perfectionist in this very moment. Unless you're improving in your process and you want to try something a little bit more difficult and challenge yourself, then that's a good idea to also consider maybe moving more layers and trying to get something more complex. That just depends on where you are in your game dev journey, and don't beat yourself up about it if you're not getting this amazing animation that you want. Just stick to the basics, stick to the fundamentals, focus on your foundation, and get something simple first, and then improve on the game as you go, because that will help you progress so much better than trying to do everything all at once in the beginning. So just get something simple out, and that's going to help you in the long run. And that's definitely helped me to improve my own process. Just do something simple for today, and that's what we're doing today. Just like today, we're recording this Buildbox video, but it actually ends up being part 2 for a Blender video, and I'm glad I'm able to capture this part. A lot of it is going to help a lot of people out there, because then you don't have to go through what I went through. You can just learn and build upon that knowledge. So I'll leave you with that and back to the video. So now that we have this idle animation set for character 1.4, the Nosestache Guy, looks like I'm rotating it left and right. Not sure why. Maybe I wanted it to be different. And you could just add on to your current keyframes and it will definitely create your complex animation. But I remembered I need to get this finished quickly, so we need to not spend too much time on it. So we need to create the outline, duplicate the body in vertex groups, click plus to create a group, rename it to outline, add a mask modifier, add a solidify modifier, add a second material that has an emission and backface culling checked, increase the offset from 0 to 1, thickness to whatever you like, check flip normals, material index offset from 0 to 1, check high quality normals, shell vertex group to outline in the mask modifier, vertex group to outline. Move the solidify modifier above the mask modifier and boom, your outline's there. Rename the duplicate object to outline and now we have our correct 3D object facing from left to right. And this way was us rotating and just moving our UVs and our textures. So we need to export this FBX. We go to File, Export FBX, rename this to let us know what file this is. That way we can keep everything separate and also have an idea of what progress we made on our characters. Since I'm recording everything, it just makes everything easier for me to voice over and that I actually know what I actually did for each character. So that's also the beneficial thing of me doing these videos. It's helping me remember certain things that I did with each character in case I need to refer back to it. So if that's something that's helpful for you, for your own characters, or anything that you do in regards to game development, you should definitely record your own process because it's going to be super helpful for you in the long run. It just helps you remember everything because if you're working at an incredibly fast rate like I am, you definitely don't remember a lot of the things detailedly that you did because it's definitely too much information to absorb all at once. But if it's recorded and you refer back to it, you're just like, oh yeah, I definitely did that. And if you need certain things, you can always refer back to your videos. That's the helpful thing. Let's test this real quick. Drop the FBX into Buildbox, delete the old object first, or just start from a new blank template in Buildbox. That way you know for sure we're not looking at the old version of character 1.4. So I drop in the FBX, click import, move the cube down, change the ground from grass to no ground, and this definitely works just by looking at how the character was imported. This is an important part if you're making characters and 3D models in Blender and moving it into Buildbox, is that you need to test the character first before doing any crazy thing just to make sure it even works. So that's something that you have to make sure of before you even do a lot of crazy stuff to it. You gotta make sure the joints are working. You gotta make sure the animations are working. You gotta make sure the mesh is correct with its textures. So that's another thing to be aware of when you're using Blender and Buildbox. So I'm actually gonna end this video because this is just the part 2 for the mirror / rotation fix for character 1.4 that we had for the character when he was facing left to right. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to keep the Blender videos and the Buildbox videos separate. More so because this is easier to manage and remember what's going on with each character and also the different processes that I have to go through and the different workflows. So that's why we're keeping it separate. I forgot that there's an extra part to this character that we needed to fix, and that's why I'm narrating it now. If you want to see us build the mechanic for character 1.4, the Nosestache Guy, head over to the next video and you'll definitely see the mechanic since we got our character correct this time. Please like this video, subscribe if this was helpful, all that good stuff. I hope this is all helping you guys to kind of understand the process a little bit, but see you in the next video. Peace.